out quickly whether you guys can hear me properly. Let me see. Can I do something here? There we are. There we are. Yeah, Tinnitus Coach Frida here. I wanted to go live quickly to talk about something that this week has been very dear to me. Um, Many of you guys know that I've been struggling with burnout this year a little bit, and that's due to me caring a lot about every single one of you. It's due to me caring a lot about this community here on YouTube, but also our community at my Tinnitus Club. And overall, I think I've just invested a lot into the business and a lot into, yeah, creating content and coaching people and all of this that I neglected myself a little bit. So I wanted to share something today that I found really, really insightful when it comes to tinnitus management that I've learned this year for the first time. I'm dealing with acceptance and commitment therapy in my own process of burnout. But of course, acceptance and commitment therapy has been my go-to in all my coachings. And, here on the channel, I have a lot of videos where I share why acceptance and commitment therapy can be so helpful for habituating to tinnitus. And what I want to share with you guys is, in the end, um, tinnitus is not so much an audiological issue for most people as a emotional issue where I know most people say at the start, well, yes, but how should it not be bugging me? And how could it not be distracting and annoying if it's always there, super loud and really annoying, right? Um, but to that, I say, what is annoying? Annoying is your judgment. The same way you say, my favorite color is this or that, and someone else has another favorite color. It's a personal judgment and something that is also based on conditioning. So whether you do suffer from tinnitus or not is a few things that come together, right? Certain conditioning, certain ways of learning about tinnitus, certain ways to respond to your tinnitus, and how you have experienced tinnitus, especially at the start. And then what's also really important is to realize that, tinnitus is something that is a benign body symptom and that 25 to 30% of the population experience. And there is an equally large group of people who really struggle with tinnitus. There's minimum an equally large group, probably a lot bigger, from people who are fully habituated and who experience tinnitus, but who just go about their lives and live their lives without being too bothered by their tinnitus. And yeah, Sitaram, thanks for your question. I will answer your question in a bit. Um, it's really important to know that in the end, it's not the tinnitus sound that is your biggest obstacle, but the way your body and your emotional system, so the amygdala, the fear and panic based system, your autonomous nervous system, react to tinnitus. And if it's one of fight or flight, where you constantly get stuck in this mode of fight or flight, then yeah, that is something that keeps the repetitive conditioning on, and you're going to be continuing to deal with it in exactly that way. And it's going to be very, very difficult to get out of that vicious loop. And Sitaram asks if I'm using a masker. No, I'm not using a masker. I have a normal hearing aid. This is a European brand hearing aid with a closed fitting, so with an autoplastic, we call it, and basically just has, as usual, hearing aids has a microphone up here and a speaker down here. So I put it into my ear. Now I can't because I have these earpods in that hopefully make the sound medium okay for you guys to watch. But these hearing aids have Bluetooth functionality, so I do have Bluetooth on these hearing aids, but I don't use it for masking. So personally, I am fully 100% habituated to my tinnitus. You guys know I just have this thing in here. It's useless technically. So on the left ear I'm deaf. Most of you guys know it doesn't really do anything. And on this ear I have the hearing aid and the tinnitus. But the hearing aid has a functionality for Bluetooth, so I can potentially play Bluetooth sounds or masking, but I don't because I don't need it. And for me, the most important thing about my hearing aid is that, of course, it makes my hearing better. And if we have an indication for a hearing aid and we have tinnitus, then it's a good idea to get a hearing aid. Why? Because the hearing aid allows us to hear more. And that in turn will allow the brain to be less attentive to tinnitus, right? So it's really important that if you do have an indication for a hearing aid, get yourself a hearing aid because it will definitely have a positive effect on your tinnitus, but it will definitely not eliminate your tinnitus. So tinnitus is also a lot about setting your goals and yeah, what you make of it basically. Yeah. Um, it's about expectance. And of course, if you any problem that is going to be difficult to solve, if you go with the expectations that you're going to solve this within a couple of weeks or something, and solving for you means getting rid of your tinnitus, then most of us get very disappointed very quickly, and then it turns into a big vicious cycle and a big problem, right? So it's very, very important. And Abhinav asked what is done for hyperacusis. I'm gonna answer just in a moment about hyperacusis, but let me just finish my thought. So if we think about like tinnitus, getting rid of it or changing it very, very quickly, and being done with it, and then what happens? Your emotional reaction skyrockets. Why? So after a few weeks, you see like, okay, well, how am I doing with my tinnitus now? I'm still bothered by it. I'm still sleepless nights. Still can't pay attention to my job properly. And then your brain, we are very smart beings, we're human beings, we have evolved millions of years, and we're good problem solvers, right? No food, get food. No shelter, get shelter. Tinnitus, get rid of tinnitus, right? So the problem then is we evaluate and see like, okay, how are we feeling with our tinnitus? And then we say like, okay, it's still there, it's still annoying me, still difficult, and that's a big thing where we get frustrated and then the loop continues. A repetitive anxiety and a repetitive reaction towards it just gets worse and worse, and thereby what happens is the fight or flight gets stuck, and we continue to be very, very focused on our tinnitus, and that in turn leads to the fact that tinnitus often is also perceived louder. um, And I'm going to go into what Abhinav says. Abhinav asked for what is done for hyperacusis. Hyperacusis is a little bit of a tricky topic. Well, I mean, tinnitus is also a tricky topic. But yeah, hi, Hugh. Yeah, I got you, man. I'll talk about hyperacusis in a minute. I don't have that much time, so this won't be a super long live, but I want to answer your questions before we finish this live stream. Yeah, hyperacusis is a little bit of a mixed topic, I would say. Hyperacusis is because it is psychological and physiological. The problem that I just talked about for the first 8 minutes of this live stream is the emotional and psychological impact of tinnitus. And hyperacusis is a little bit of both. So it is literally sound sensitivity that is physiological. So you really have a more sensitive ear, and it's also psychological. So, of course, because you have a more sensitive ear and you feel pressure and fullness, your brain also says, well, I need to be very careful, especially in conjunction with tinnitus. I should be taking more care. This is more, it's like really, really difficult, right? Your stream, because of the obscenity, will be closed. Yeah, all right. We'll see about that, whether my stream will be closed in 3 minutes. What is this? Okay, I don't get it. Um, so the hyperacusis is something that's a little bit more difficult, um, and it is because we have to deal with both the psychological and the physiological effects of the hyperacusis. But how do we want to do that? In the same way with tinnitus, we want to slowly expose ourselves, but not doing too much. So for you and for Abhinav, it's really important that you go slow. So whatever you feel is way too much and you can't really expose yourself too much is something that is normal, but you can't really do much about it. And on the other hand, of course, the thing is you have to be paying attention to, what your body wants. And if you think it's important for your hyperacusis to, not go full on protection, but make like a compromise where you go to a restaurant, you go into a place where it's loud but not too loud, and so on and so forth. It's important that you take the steps to behave in a way that is beneficial to your hyperacusis and not making your hyperacusis and the psychological and physiological reaction worse. So I think slowly but steadily, yeah, yeah. It's psychological and physiological. That's what makes it so mean, right, Hugh? This is the mean thing about it, that it's psychological and physiological. So both are valid. But my biggest advice to people with hyperacusis is it's important to go in your own time and to realize that your ears just need time for recovery and that you slowly but steadily want to get used to normal level sounds again. Slowly but steadily introduce new routines, and then also deal, of course, with the fact that it's a psychological challenge as well, where you say like, okay, if I feel like I'm unsafe, then I'm trying to get a compromise with me and my body and say, okay, what can I do in order to feel more safe in my body I um, if I uh, if I have a problem. Um, yeah, all right. And then you say sometimes light switch word, then what or can be physical, psychological in some cases. Yeah, for sure, in both. Um, yeah, screaming kids are also one. Yeah. But look, in acceptance and commitment therapy, we say it's really important to go towards your values. So yes, of course, screaming kids can be very loud in our ear as well, and we should be careful that the little ones don't scream directly into our ear, because yes, that is very loud. But according to acceptance and commitment therapy, we also say we got to do what makes us feel good and be with the people that we really love. And if that means sometimes being around kids that are a little bit louder, then we need to say like, okay, well, maybe I can, protect myself and go at my pace while at the same time not overdoing it. And I think for tinnitus and for hyperacusis, that's like a really, really good way to go. And I always say, and I said it in the community meeting last week, and I'll say it again: no one is saying that you're not allowed to enjoy your journey while you have tinnitus and hyperacusis. So you are allowed to have a good time, live a good life, and still have tinnitus and even hyperacusis. Abhinav, I don't know about your specific condition. It's probably not safe for me to give recommendation on why you're losing weight. I'm not sure. I don't think that has much to do with tinnitus or hyperacusis. I think that's something that you should discuss with a doctor, your general practitioner or a specialist. Um, of course, people get depressed with tinnitus and hyperacusis sometimes as well. And of course, one of the symptoms of depression is that we lose weight. But that's something that rather or the anxiety, yeah, for sure. Like anxiety needs a huge amount of energy. For me, the same thing this year. I have to eat a lot in order to stay where I am, but I don't really have a lot of appetite. So that's normal. But rather get that checked out by a doctor. That's always the most important thing that you can do, right? Get it checked out by a doctor. And look, the stream is still running. 3 minutes because of obscenity. Yeah, very obscene to talk about tinnitus and hyperacusis. Interesting. What these people try, right? Maybe you try to get in here and say, like, if I pay this sort of money to some place somewhere, then he will not close my stream or something. Could be. Yeah, the internet. The good and bad of the internet. Alrighty. Any other questions? Otherwise, I will wrap this up and I will take a stroll outside because I haven't really been outside today. Um, yeah, you mean tinnitus overall on the increase, or just um, just yours? As in like tinnitus in society or overall in the world? Yeah, I mean, look at it this way, right? Like many other conditions decline, our societies get richer and more healthier, and we live longer. So yeah, and we use all of these devices a lot more. So we use earpods and hearing stuff, and we run around with sound in our ear all the time. Sound is available all the time. The kids have TikTok on 24/7. And we don't, unfortunately, tend to use the functionality of safe listening in our devices and stuff. So the problem often is that we are actually not really We should be more careful in our media consumption, first of all, and everyone should know what they're doing when they're exposing themselves to loud sounds, and what they do when they cause tinnitus, and that. So overall, yes, tinnitus is on the increase for sure. Um, yeah, I would also say argue that tinnitus is on the increase overall. Simply, of course, we live in a age of anxiety again. There's a lot of fear and anxiety post COVID as well. That was a really difficult time for us after like having many prosperous years where we all said nothing can hurt us, and then suddenly everything comes together, like climate change, political stuff, wars flaring up again, and COVID, and all of these things together. Then vaccines, anti-vaccines, like so many different things, and like we get more anxious and more anxious, and we get more stressed, and we consume more media, and we have more stuff in our ears. So I think all of these combinations lead to tinnitus being on the rise. But that is just to say that tinnitus is still a symptom. What it is classified as a disease is the fear and anxiety that is related to tinnitus and the negative emotional spiral, right? So yeah, I mean, I know that a lot of people claim that the vaccine gave them tinnitus, but you just have to look at it this way. If you vaccine 90% of the population and 30% of the population eventually in their lifetime develop tinnitus, then what's the statistical relevance of the vaccine giving some people tinnitus, or that just occurring simultaneously? I'm not saying it's absolutely impossible that a vaccine gives tinnitus, because we've probably also seen side effects in other vaccines and medications. For example, aspirin sometimes gives people tinnitus. Overuse of aspirin can increase the prevalence of tinnitus, but it's only able to make something that's already there. So tinnitus is a physiological thing in the auditory cortex that can happen to any human being. It's just what triggers it. And yes, I do believe that certain things can trigger it. And it's yeah, I mean, I'm taking SSRIs right now. You know why I'm taking SSRI? Because I had burnout this year and I was really not well. So I'm taking an SSRI right now. And I said, like, you know what? Even if it makes my tinnitus even louder, I couldn't care. Because what's most important is the antidepressive effect. That's why I'm taking an SSRI, right? So sometimes you got to weigh the benefits or the options. What is better? Not getting a vaccine, potentially having severe side effects from COVID, or going the super low risk, going super low risk on getting tinnitus, or going super high risk of like dying of a COVID infection. It is difficult. I'm not advocating any decision here, right? Everyone has to do whatever they want to do. It's important that people have the ability to decide whatever they feel like. I'm just saying that it is very likely that if you vaccine 90% of a 200 million country and 30% eventually get tinnitus anyways, that there's occurrences where people get tinnitus at the same time as being vaccinated, and that could or doesn't have had to be the vaccine. Anyways, um, finally, issue. This is the one question I want to answer. Your hearing is normal according to the ENT test, and yeah, 8 pints of beer stopped mine too. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm not drinking anymore since I'm taking that new medication though, because I just thought, you know what, let me just stop drinking. That's probably a good thing for me, anyways, to not drink anymore. Shu says hearing is normal according to the ENT test, all normal, but you have hyperacusis and tinnitus. Yeah, that's very normal. Probably your hearing test went up to 8 kilohertz, and that's the normal, most important frequencies. But we are born with the ability to hear up to 20 kilohertz, which is like super high pitch, like dog whistles and stuff. That in everyday life, you never need to hear that. You don't need to hear 20, 16, 15, 14. The most important ones, you probably know the speech banana, is up to 8 kilohertz. That's the most important thing that you need to hear. That's why most ENTs test until sorry for that, test until 8 kilohertz. And if you don't have a hearing loss up to 8 kilohertz, that doesn't mean that, of course, it's natural to have a hearing test in the higher frequencies, which there you go, you can hear the pitch from 20 meters away. That means that you probably have a slight hearing loss in any of these super high frequencies, which might be triggering your tinnitus, and your tinnitus might be triggered together with your hyperacusis. So that's the solution. So you don't have a hearing loss that warrants treating. So you don't really need to do anything about your hearing loss because it doesn't affect your speech understanding yet. You should see my hearing test. It's terrible for my one ear. For the other one's deaf anyways, but you should see my hearing test. But there's not really anything that you need to do about it, but it still means that that could be the reason for why you experience tinnitus. And Abhinav, we have to learn to live with T. um, I mean, there are people where tinnitus recedes into the background. There are cases of somatic tinnitus, for example, where neck and back issues are mainly the cause of tinnitus, or dietary changes or something. That's very sometimes rare that people just simply have tinnitus and eventually it stops again. Most time it becomes chronic for people just simply because that's the way the auditory cortex responds to this missing input. And yes, we have to learn to live with T, but it is something that I've said already in this live stream. Who tells you that you can't have a good life even with tinnitus and while you are learning to live with it? Who says that now you have to fight for the next few months of being in anxiety all the time, and you can't sort of like do what's good for you? And yeah, Hugh, I know about Liam, and Liam and me, we just agree to disagree on certain topics. And I've tried a lot of things in my life to get rid of my tinnitus. None of those have worked, and I've tried such strategies as well. And Liam and me, we just agree to disagree, and that's perfectly fine. And some people will want to try Liam's stuff, and some people will want to try my stuff. Right? It's a little bit like, some people prefer Volkswagen, and some people prefer a Hyundai or a BMW. And some people might want to say like, hey, I'm going for the Liam stuff, and if it doesn't work, then I'm going to go to Frida's, and I'm going to work with acceptance and commitment therapy and learn how to live a fully and happy life despite the presence of my tinnitus, because he's a very good example that even if I have tinnitus, I can be happy, healthy, and doing well, right? And that's the message that I want to send out for you guys. And of course, as usual, it's been a pleasure. Um, I hope that you are all well. On Friday, we have the usual video and podcast releasing. Thank you all for your support. It means a lot. I know I'm not going live very often, but I'm trying my best to keep up with all the new subscribers and all the new people that we have here. And of course, if you want to know more or see more, then I always have a link in the description as well, where you can learn more about the coaching program, as well as the online club that we have, where we always have live coaching sessions with other members from the community, where I tell you how to use these behavioral therapies in order to rewire your brain, that you can start deprioritizing your tinnitus. And Abhinav, Susan Shaw has demonstrated that she has a good device, but it's yet to be seen whether the market readiness will demonstrate that we see the high relief rates that they show in preliminary studies. And in the end, I think it is our response that is retrained to tinnitus and not the tinnitus itself. And that's the most important thing for all of you guys out there to know. Whatever device or service or thing you use that's on the market right now, um, probably apart from Liam, but all of the other things, they work with the way you respond to tinnitus and the way your emotional system responds to tinnitus, including by coaching. So yeah, the modalities are different, and it's probably mostly up to how you feel most comfortable, or what solution you feel most comfortable, or yeah, for example, also if you enjoy working with one person, or if you don't enjoy with that person, or what's where you feel comfortable, right? That's probably my opinion. Um, Alrighty, I'll go for a little walk. I'll try to be live next Wednesday again. I'll see whether I can go Wednesday. Take the Wednesdays for a quick live. Thanks, Julian. Appreciate it. Thank you. Um, yeah, Vina, check the link in the description. There's a link to our program. Yeah, I do both of them. I do courses and coaching. Check them out. Links in the description. Yeah, thank you guys for watching. Looking forward to hearing from you, and wishing you a happy, healthy, and good rest of the week. And remember that you deserve to be happy and you deserve to be well, even though you experience tinnitus right now. And that's not something that's not possible. It's absolutely possible. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others, take things slow, and eventually you will habituate, you will deprioritize tinnitus, and you will get better with it. I trust you and that process, because I've seen many, many people do it, and you will do it too. All right. Friday is my new video. Until then, wish you all the best, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye, guys. Bye bye.